Yes, one third of the world's hungriest people live in Nigeria. How does that, first and foremost, how does that make you feel as a Nigerian?
Yeah, it makes me sad, but it's not. I'm not surprised. You see, in addition to being a journalist, I'm a farmer. I've always loved farming. I was raised on a farm. When I was a child, 40 years ago, we had 60,000 square miles of sugarcane in Kwara State, a place called Bashita. As a child, I went to school and I had white people teach me in primary school because of that company there. We had molasses, we had bagasse. Bagasse is the fiber from sugarcane, and we had a 10 megawatt power plant fired by bagasse. As a child, we had Land Rovers, we had Land Cruisers, we had swimming pools, we had squash rackets, we had everything in my school on account of this farm. In fact, as a child, we used to go to the aerodrome to watch the aeroplane, Cessna planes take off in that small village to spray herbicides on sugarcane farms. We saw mechanical harvesters. Then, 18 kilometers from Bashita, we had this town, we still have this town called Jeba Paper Mill. By 1983, Paper Mill had the largest paper mill in Africa. But as I speak, both factories are dead. Then in 1977, General Obasanjo at the time, he opened a number of river basin authorities. So we had one in Shunga, Kwara State. That's where you have the Zimbabwean farmers live now, where they farm. We had about 5,000 hectares. But what I'm trying to say is this: I grew up planting rice. I grew up planting corn. My first bank account in my life was from my rice farm, and I'm a very proud person to say that. And even as a journalist, I've not stopped farming. I have 10 hectares of land, and I used to have one of the biggest fish farms around. I stopped that. But then, if you compare and contrast, you see that we have not paid attention to agriculture. And when I mean paying attention to agriculture, I'll tell us this. As I speak, there's no farm. I stand to be corrected, but we don't have any farm in Nigeria that have up to 10,000 hectares under cultivation, and that's a very sad reality. You see, and people don't understand. You see, we have security, we have security strategy. We have what they call food security, but as we speak, it's only in name. You go around the country, you have silos where you're supposed to store grains. But I can tell you for free that most of these silos are empty because we don't have enough grains to fill these silos. And then, if you look at the vegetation of Nigeria, the middle belt is the grain belt of Nigeria. The middle belt is the grain belt. You don't do grains in the south. And sadly, it is this middle belt that's ravaged by insecurity. If you look at the report, you see that there's a common trend in the report. All these countries war torn. I have a farm close to Kefi. I want to do yam. I said, okay, let me do 100,000 seeds and do that and try that. And I planted that. And guess what? They came and removed the whole yams.
Who?
Thieves. So there are things that you see, like it's like kidnapping, for instance. When we were younger, we watched movies and watched Mexican movies and heard about. But it sounded very strange because we didn't understand what kidnapping meant. But now it's come to stay with, it's kind of become our culture. Those days, people never went to farm to steal plantains. But now you plant yams. They say if you plant them, you need to put that out. They didn't tell me that I ought to have hired somebody with an AK-47 to guard the place for 2 months. What am I saying? Look at our industries in Nigeria. All the non-food industries have died. The only industries that are alive in Nigeria, you have PZ, you have Cadbury, you have Lever Brothers, you have what do you call it? You have
those companies. Let's not do corporate mentions. And the likes.
No, and the likes. But you see companies like Michelin, Dunlop, companies that do other things. No, they're no longer in existence. What does it tell us? It tells us that as long as there are human beings on earth, food is going to be a very big industry. And we have failed to tap on that. We read about federal government, how much was approved yesterday by FEC for job creation. How do you want to create jobs? I tell people, if we brought out 10 hectares of land per state, and clear the land and give tractors and call our graduates and say, okay, give them 2 hectares each and put a price tag on the best farmers, do like a competition. We don't make plenty money from that, and at the same time, take our youth off crime. The biggest industry now in Nigeria is betting industry. We never used to have that. As children, we used to laugh, mock people who played face-to-face pools those days. But now every young man now wants to play, wants to bet, and they feel that that's the only way they can make money. It's sad. And as long as, even for those of us who eat, what is the quality of our nutrition in Nigeria? And there's a direct bearing between what we eat and our healthcare system. See, people who eat, who feed well, who eat more balanced diet, they are less prone to fall ill. So you see that we have this food crisis. They also have a health crisis because they go hand in hand. Most of our children are malnourished. Eggs, an egg now costs 15 naira. People, if you say a child who eats eggs, it's luxury.
Yeah.
People drinking milk is a luxury because we don't have these things. I had an Indian friend several years ago who said that we have all our schools. There are no schools that keep cows in Nigeria, but every day they tell the pupils to go and cut grass. They want to keep 2 or 3 cows, and they allow these cows and sheep eat this grass, and you get meat, you get milk, and you get food, and you get money to sustain certain things in school. But we don't do that. It's a very like I said, I'm not. It's sad that this report is coming out, but I'm not surprised because it's expected. We stop farming.
Okay, let me get to you, MOC. As I said during my introduction, you contested the PDP primaries to represent Abuja in the Senate, even though it didn't work out for you. But I believe you must have had a plan, a legislative plan. I believe you must have had a manifesto. Did you have agriculture as part of it? And if you did, what was it? Can you let us in on what you probably would have done in terms of legislating, making laws to ensure that these sort of issues are nipped in the bud, or at least significantly reduced?
Yeah, basically, thank you very much. We had a very strong plan to go grassroots as far as agricultural solutions is concerned, because apart from legislating, there is a lot of sensitizational gap that exists even between farmers in rural areas, and there's a very far distance between the farmers and the market. True, we are producing something that, if well harnessed today, will have a very strong impact on our consumption and production pattern. But one of the biggest challenges we've had in Nigeria is the issue of storage. The issue of storage and crude forms of production. The issue of storage and crude forms of production. For instance, if you drive to the Orange Market, somewhere at the boundary of Nasarawa and Abuja, you discover that a chunk of the tomatoes that arrives that market every week is wasted. It's wasted not because there is no market. It's wasted because there is little or no provision for proper storage of those food items. Now, one of the plans we had, apart from localizing production and ensuring that each area council, each ward is known for something, we also had a strong plan for agricultural education, because you can never separate poverty from the level of education that the farmers or that the people have received. So we wanted to come up with a strong education for farmers at their localities, at the ward levels, to be able to get them to understand what mechanization is all about. Because if you go to our various wards in Abuja, go to the 62 wards in Abuja, in the Federal Capital Territory, you discover one thing in common, that farmers are still operating that hunting and gathering crude method of agriculture. It's one strong denominator you find in all the 62 wards in the Federal Capital Territory. And one of the things we wanted to do was to infuse strong education for these farmers.
Interesting. Let's talk about government policies now as it concerns agriculture, because I mean, when we talk about agriculture, that's the way we can, have food production and all of that. The immediate past government talked about how, successful it was in terms of agriculture. It said that it made significant progress in terms of agriculture. In fact, the then Minister of Agriculture, who is now the President of the AFDB, was lauded as one of the best ministers in that cabinet. Now, the present government is also following the same narrative. They have constantly said they have made significant improvements in agriculture, especially in the area of rice farming and rice production. But at the end of the day, you take a look at the statistics, they do not tally, because, if you say we have made significant improvements in terms of agriculture, and which should mean that there should be more food. At the end of the day, you see the statistics, and then you're being told that 1/3 of the world's hungriest people are in Nigeria. How do you marry that? Is it now a case of we have enough food, or maybe not enough, but we have a decent amount of food, but the people are so poor that they can't afford it, or it's a case of we not even having?
You see, like I said, as a journalist who's a farmer who's researched so much to rice production, the truth is, rice production in Nigeria is a scam. And I say this with all sense of responsibility. Let me tell you how this works. There's a rice mill. Even as a child, the federal government had like 10 rice mills in Nigeria, gigantic rice mills. But you see, the problem we have in Africa, this part of Africa, is this. You see, we had this tomato plant in Vetri in Gombe. It used to be in Gombe State those days. But what were they doing, basically? They planted a few tomatoes. If you put the tomatoes in the mill, in 1 week, the whole tomatoes will be gone. They won't have enough. So what they did that, then they will pour tomato paste and fill to augment that. It happens everywhere. But the truth is this. There's so much politics. When I say it's a scam, it's something I've researched so much into. Everybody is building rice mills. There's one in Nasarawa where the former president went to commission. But the truth is this. You see, you have 5,000 hectares of land, and then you have a 200 ton per day mill. It's not, you see, figures don't add up. Because if you do 200, how many tons are you going to produce from 5,000 hectares? So if you mill 200 tons of rice a day, in a month, the whole rice will be gone. And don't forget that we plant rice only once in a year here. We plant rice only in the rainy season. If you want to do rice in the season, because rice is a very thirsty crop, you can't do rice because it's going to be very expensive, because diesel is about 230 per liter. You can't. I tried it in Lokoja. If you want to use diesel pumps to pump water to irrigate rice, you can't do that, because you spend like 50,000 naira a day pumping, because you use huge machines to pump. So it will be profitable. So we rely only on rain. You can do tomatoes, you can do other crops, because they're not that thirsty. You can do drip irrigation and plant these crops. So what I discovered, what they've done in Nigeria is, personally, I feel very sad when we talk about rice, when we bandy these figures, because to me, like I said, it's a scam. People set up big rice mills, and then it's as if the bigger your rice mill is, the bigger what you call rice allocation. Because you cannot, federal government policy, you can't import rice if you're not in rice production business. So only people who are in the business are allowed to import rice. So what do? They go and build gigantic mills, 1,000 ton per day mills. So when they mill, after 1 week, they say, government, give us what they call quota, that our rice is finished, so, but this is our size. So they give the quota based on your size of mills. It's the truth. So you see, in Kebbi, they have mills. In Kwara, almost every state, you have private. You have one in Anambra, and I asked them. There's one in Amichi in Anambra. Amichi is in Anambra South. I went to rice growing belt in Anambra. It's in the north, and rice is a very special crop. You have what you call paddy. Paddy is a raw form. If you brought 500 bags of paddy and you milled, you parboiled and milled, and then you get 250 bags because half of it is the skin, the husk. So you can't tell me that you produce. It's like you produce oranges in Benue, then you put the mill in Abuja. Then if you haul a truck, a trailer load of oranges to Abuja and you mill and you crush it, you won't get more than 1,000 liters of juice. So why not? It doesn't make sense because if you calculate the cost of moving the raw oranges here, so why not install the mill there? Funny enough, interestingly, we don't even install rice mills where the rice is produced, and where the rice is produced, we install bogus mills just to get what you call allocation. As I speak, we have yet to do a census of. There's so much this about how much rice we consume because of importation, but nobody has gone to ask about how much yams we consume. We eat rice mostly on Sundays, especially in the south. No, especially in the southeast, especially on Sundays. Then they eat fufu, they eat gari, they eat akpu, they eat beans, they eat maimai, they eat agidi. But nobody has done a census on that. So there's so much hype on rice that other food is like sports. So much attention on football, then you neglect cricket, neglect the others. We're talking about yam. Yam is a very good export earner for us. Corn is a very good export earner for us. Cowpeas, even groundnuts. I heard that people
Cashew nuts.
I'll come there. People even fry groundnuts and cauterize and send to the UK and say they're making tons of money from that because it's organic. Let me come to cashew nuts. I want to do cashew, but I couldn't do cashew because cashew is like mango. It's like orange. You call it true to type. What you call true to type is if you buy a particular mango seed and you like the taste, plant it, you can never get that kind of mango. So it's called true to type. So if you want to get that particular mango, plant any mango, then go to that original tree, the parent tree, cut it and graft it. That's the only way you can get that. It happens with oranges. You can't. If you see an orange, you like it, you can plant the seed. You can never get that taste of orange. They're called true to type seeds. You have to plant anyone. We call it Sion, SCION. Then you craft it to that thing. And as we speak, there's no way in Nigeria where cashew is grafted.
Okay, MOC, because when we talk of food production, like Mr. Akuna said here, it's talked extensively on food production, our capacity to actually produce enough food. But at the end of the day, there's also one very pertinent question that needs to be asked. What really is the bigger problem? The lack of adequate production of food, or is it more of a case of poverty where people, because he said even for those who could probably afford to eat, I mean, what is the quality of what they eat? So is it more of a case of lack of adequate production of food, or is it a case of the people being so poor that they can't even afford to eat? Because, if you take a look at the start again, it says precisely in the northern part of Nigeria, that is where you have the bulk of, the hungriest people. And if you also look at the index for poverty, it is also residing in the north. So is it more of a case of poverty rather than a case of, us lacking a capacity to actually produce adequate food?
I think it's somewhere in between what you're talking about, and from what he's saying and from what we know, it's obvious that number one, the level of understanding of the players in this sector is very low. They've not been able to grasp the real issues, and that has also affected their strategy, to tackle the challenges associated with food security in Nigeria. Now, he did make mention of some of these issues of production centers and processing centers. And at the same time, I want us to also remember the fact that in Nigeria today, we have so much waste. I remember some months back, a particular ministry of exported yams, and the yams went bad on transit and could not be delivered in any form of value. And this brings us back to the fact that there is a very low level of understanding in this sector by the people that should be driving the sector. And then there's this issue of population growth. When the production matches the population, and there is a strong level of planning to grow production over time to match the population over time, then we'll begin to step towards food security. For instance, as at today, the consumption of some of these food items in Nigeria alone is way above what we were consuming some 5-10 years ago. So if we continue what we were doing 5-10 years ago, today, we'll discover that there's going to be a very large gap in the supply of some of these food items in the market and for consumers. One of the greatest challenges we've had is the pricing of some of these food items. We've had importation ban on some of these food items, and then some of the pricings went to the roof. And this has a lot to do with the planning vis-a-vis the population growth of Nigeria. By now, we're supposed to be planning for food security in 2020 vis-a-vis population growth in 2020. In 2030. Some of the researchers have come up with some of the facts that tells us that if we continue at this current level of production, of food production, by the year 2030, Nigerian population would have doubled in size, and there will be acute starvation, there will be acute poverty, looking at the rates our planning and strategy for food production is going. And that cannot be solved without re-strategizing and proper understanding of not just agriculture, but also the terrain we find ourselves in. If you go to somewhere like Israel, for instance, you see that those people have understood their terrain. While our cattle here in Nigeria produces 1 liter of milk, per day, 1 liter of milk, the same farm, the same cattle, of course, a different breed in Israel or in some other countries that understand the terrain, produce 50 liters of milk per day. So it's clear that some people have taken time to understand. And now you see some Nigerian businessmen, including some top people in service, go and import those same type of cattle. And then they have to now use air condition, to condition the environment where these cows are being kept to simulate where they are bringing them from. And still, at most, those cattle are producing about 24-25 liters, half.
Okay, we'll put you on pause on that note. Let's take a break, pay some bills. When we come back, we'll continue with the conversation. You did mention Israel, and I will pose a question to Mr. Akunda on Israel in juxtaposition with Nigeria's agriculture. When we come back, you also get the chance to call us or text us and make your contributions on the show. It is Talk Nigeria on Greetings 105.7. Welcome back to the show, Talk Nigeria on Greetings 105.7. It is a Thursday, the 4th of April 2019. And on the show this morning, we're discussing the UN report that has ranked Nigeria as having 1/3 of the world's hungriest people. Okay? Because it says 1/3 of the world's hungriest people live in Nigeria. And that's what we're discussing this morning. And I have two gentlemen discussing this with me today. Mr. Chuks Akuna, who is the Executive Director of the Authority newspaper, and Mr. Emusi Enyola, a lawyer who is also here with us today. Now, before we went on that break, Mr. Akuna, I said I was going to ask you a question, juxtaposing Israel's agriculture to that of Nigeria. For example, only 20% of the land area in Israel is naturally arable. So you can imagine. And in 2008, for example, agriculture represented 2.5% of their total GDP and 3.6% of their exports. Now, farm workers made up only 3.7% of the country's workforce. And Israel produced 95% of its own food requirements, supplementing this with imports of grain, oilseeds, meat, coffee, cocoa, and sugar. Now, for a country that is, domiciled in a desert area, and for them to have 95% production rate, they produce 95% of what they eat. And then for a country like Nigeria that has, I'm not sure of what the percentage is, but I'm sure it's going to be, above 50% having arable land, and then we struggle like this. Is it now a case of the government, successive governments, not having implemented clear-cut policies on agriculture and setting the tone for what would have been, Nigeria have been food sufficient at this point?
So let me put it this way. I like to talk practical. If you're going to build a 10-story building in Nigeria, for instance, and you want to mix concrete and people to climb 10 floors to pour concrete, you have like 1,000 people doing that. But if you have a labor crane, for instance, it's going to do that in a question of days. So I tell people, if you read about agriculturization in Europe, in the West, the last time anybody in Europe used his hand to plant seeds was 250 years ago. Go and check. In America, I saw a planter that can do 90, a John Deere planter that can plant 90 rows at a time. So it's like having 90 people on your farm planting. And don't forget that this is just a machine. One tractor will pull that 90. So you imagine if you have 5,000 hectares. So let me tell you what the problems we have here. If you want to have a big farm in Nigeria, you have the issue of input. You don't have a planter because you need to plant with precision. You should put what we call a seed drill. You want to put 2 seeds or a single seed in a row. Here, we had this experience like 30 years ago when my father went to plant rice in Shonga. We brought rice, gave the workers. They said, okay, don't worry, tomorrow we'll plant. They went to parboil the rice and ate the rice. No, that's the truth. Even growing up, even in sugar company then, where you spray with knapsack is this thing you carry behind your back and you spray mechanically. The company had to resort to buy mechanical boom sprayers. Boom sprayers where you mount on tractor. So knapsack is about 15 liters, max 20 liters. So each person will carry, and then you walk between the sugarcane. So what they had to do was they had to buy what they call boom sprayer. So you attach it to the back of a tractor, then one operator. So you can do like 6 rows at once. You carry like 1,000 liters of the herbicide. You do that because these people, when they spray, when they get to the middle of the sugarcane farm, because covered with leaves, they just pour it because everybody has to do 15 knapsacks a day. So they go there, they pour it away, they come back, fetch again. So in an hour they say they finish spraying, but they're going to pour away the chemicals. So here, if you say you want to plant, if you want to plant melon, for instance, you say you have 50 hectares, you can't plant it because if you hire people to do it, because you pay them per day, they charge you per day. So they will go when they go far from you, they sit down, they go under one tree, they start sleeping. At night they say that they will like mungama, I kid them. So you have to pay. So if you're not, why do you use automation in factories in the West? One, quality control. You can produce 1,000 bottles of drinks, the same quantity. They're not hand-filled. That's one. So 2, my brother barrister said something about going to import Holstein cows. Even in economics, there's something called comparative advantage. You cannot carry coals to Newcastle. If you want to sell coal, you can't carry coals from Lagos to Enugu because that's where coal is. So what we do, so instead of going to break our back on our cows, the best cow we have here is this Fulani, the white Fulani. You can do between 3 and 5 liters. All the yogurt you drink in Nigeria, they are from
Holland.
No, they're from parent milk.
Okay.
We don't have Holstein cow because even human beings, we don't have the energy to even air condition for human beings, let alone cattle. So if you do that, it's going to be very expensive. So why waste time on that? Let those who can produce milk. Let's produce beef. Let's produce mutton. We have a lot of sheep can do very well here. Let's produce chicken. Here, turkey is a luxury. I saw a farmer in the UK who sells 7 million turkeys. I'm not sure anybody does 10,000 turkeys in Nigeria. If you do 10,000 turkeys, nobody will buy it from you because people see turkey as a rich man's meat. So these are the issues we have. So what we have failed to realize is those areas where we have competitive advantage, we're not exploiting those areas. Like I told you about the grains belt, Kaduna, Niger, Nasarawa is the grains belt of Nigeria.
Okay, so before you proceed, let's throw the phone lines open,
okay,
so that our listeners can also join the conversation. And of course, I share their thoughts with us on what we're discussing this morning. 070-1057-0088 or 070-1057-0909. These are the phone numbers through which you can get across to us via telephone calls on the show this morning. But if you'd rather send us text messages, do that via 070-1057-0025. That is 070-1057-0025. We're discussing the UN report that says 1/3 of the world's hungriest people live in Nigeria. What is the problem? What are the solutions? These are the things we're discussing this morning on the show on Top Nigeria and Greetings 105.7. Yes.
So that's it. So why not, if you, like I've seen strawberries from Plateau, they're around town, strawberry, people, they plant and very well. So instead of wasting our time planting apples in Nigeria.
Sorry, let me put you on pause. We have Kingsley calling from Araba. Hello Kingsley, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm very happy for this particular topic because it's really quite interesting. Because I've been thinking about the agricultural sector in Nigeria. And I've tried to discover that it looks as if Nigeria cannot feed themselves. That is a great case actually. Because if you look at last year, the stock to boost Nigeria agriculture. No fertilizer, even though there is fertilizer, it's still very expensive in the market. It's not everybody that can afford it. And if you think about Lupa, the guys that doing this business again, or Pokanjos again, some mechanics that normally bring the fertilizer, everybody, they will share it free. Those that test the first family. For this season, last season, there's not this, and the is very expensive, and it's not even everybody that can afford it. So, we need machinery for farming. So, in what areas do we think that Nigeria boost agriculture in Nigeria? The soil fertility, the soil has lost its fertility. Nigerian soil is no more rich again. So, if they allow this importation, for instance, bringing food to the country, it will be much, it will do us a lot of good. But we starving ourselves in the name of boosting agriculture.
All right.
Agriculture is something that if you think about it very well.
All right. Thank you very much. So we can take other contributions as well. Thank you very much. We need to let you go now so we can take other contributions. I'm so sorry about that, but we needed to let you go so we can also have the floor open for our other listeners to also call in and make their contributions. All right. So the phone lines are still very much open. 070-1057-0088, 070-1057-0909, or you send a text to 070-1057-0025. It is Talk Nigeria on Greetings 105.7. All right, and of course we have your messages, some of your messages in. Keep them coming. The number once again through which you can get across to us via text is 070-1057-0025. Okay, Mr. Akuna, let's have you finish on that point you were trying to make.
Maybe I should just wait what he said.
Okay.
There was once a presidential spokesman who said that the country was going to close its borders because he blamed the high cost of food on exports that a lot of trucks were leaving. You see, I think it's not a very wise thing to do. Just like what Mr. Peter is saying, closing your borders. You see, I have thought that if you want to be rich, it's more things that you sell that makes you richer. If you have 10 people in the country and you produce, you can't make money. So if people are going to export food, it's better for the farmers because farmers will have more
Well,
markets.
the question is, do they do that legally? I think that's the issue.
No, how do you mean legally?
Do they do? I mean, there has to be steps
What steps?
taken. There has to be steps before you export, because at that point it becomes exporting, right? I mean, it's not like you can just take something and then just walk across.
Okay. I'll ask you this: Have you ever sat down to take a census of the number of rams that come in from Niger and Chad and Sudan during Salah periods? Even cattle every day. Cattle come into Nigeria every day because we're not producing enough. That's the sad thing. You see, we have a lot of people who are unemployed. We want to create jobs for them. How do you create jobs for them? Like, it's not fair to mention companies, but I know a company, a Swiss company, a Swiss food company in Nigeria. They have more workers than even the federal government, Nigeria Civil Service. It's a food company, privately owned company. What are we saying? If people want to export, let them export. If you export, there will be need to produce more. You can produce more. If all the Toyota cars if Japan was only consuming its Toyota cars, you have Toyota cars. So it's when you export more, you make more money. No, that's simple. So if there's a demand, what pushes up price in economics is demand and supply. The demand will push up. If there's more demand, the price will, because people, you have more people. We have millions of graduates who are unemployed. Like I said, call the governors, say, okay, give us 50,000 hectares on loan. All this issue of cattle grazing, herdsmen clashes, they're all largely unnecessary. You see, ask ourselves, we probably eat more chicken than even cattle. We probably do. There's no census. How much incentives have you given the chicken farmers? How much incentive have you given goat farmers? A lot of goats are killed every day, but nobody's even talking about the goat farmers. People eat ram every day. Nobody's talking about ram farmers. No, ostrich is a very big foreign exchange earner. People are not doing that. Do you know, I have a friend who lives in the UK who said that palm oil from Sierra Leone is about 4 times more expensive than palm oil from Nigeria. Why? Because palm oil in Nigeria is often adulterated. They put coloring. You understand? So these are issues. These are issues. I saw a documentary on plantain chips production in Costa Rica. They produce plantain chips in Costa Rica and export to the US. It's money. We have there are people who are doing pineapples and mango flakes in Nigeria. They remove the juice and they preserve it. It's in supermarkets around. I've seen kuli processed here. These are things we can do to stimulate the economy.
Okay, we're almost rounding up. Let me get to UMOC now. Because when we talk of agriculture, just like every other sector in the country, investments and all that, it brings up the argument of government versus the private sector. Should the government really be directly involved, or the government should provide the enabling environment to allow the private sector come in and, of course, do their thing? Now, in terms of funding for agriculture in the country, do you think the government, and when I say the government, successive governments, do you think they have funded that sector well enough? Or you think probably what they need to do is implement policies that will make the industry inviting and friendly, so you can have more private investors come in? At that point, you probably wouldn't even need the government investing its own resources in the sector. Which do you think would be the better option?
Yeah, I must commend the government, successive governments, including this one, for their attention and input in the agricultural sector, because the government is always like the single largest investor in these areas. But there is a need for a more friendly environment, which is where we are lacking as a country.
And this includes, for example, infrastructure. And the infrastructure I talk about includes transport systems, the roads, and even security power
and stuff. This is where the government now needs to focus, because if, for instance, the government invests 10% in loans, in some level of structures that can, and some frameworks, working with Nexim Bank, Export Promotion Council, and all of that, to be sure that structures are in place for balance of payments and what have you. The remaining 90% might come 1% here, 10% there, 2% here from individual business owners locally and internationally. And The government, I believe, should focus more on providing an enabling environment, like we just said, security, storage facilities. Of course, they are piloting, not totally providing, but of course, the issue of security must be in place. You know, he made mention, my brother here, he made mention of the issue of arable lands now being taken over with wars and crisis and violence. So in an environment where people are fighting, in an environment where guns are being shot, in an environment where bombs are being detonated every other hour, you don't expect somebody, a reasonable man, to pick his materials and say he's going into the farm, you know, to supervise work and stuff. So again, beyond that, the government must now come up with a declared state of emergency on the agricultural sector and put somebody who has a proper understanding in charge. This is not political appointment. This is someone who has a proper understanding of the problem and how to come out of it.
Okay, Mr. Kona, before we go, I'll pose a similar question to you, but this time I'll provide context. And I ask you this because, I mean, you've been in government, you understand reasonably well how, you know, government procedures run, and you're also a farmer, so fantastic. Now, let me provide context as I said. A few years ago, I tried to, you know, in fact, I got involved in tomato sales. I wouldn't say production because I wasn't producing. I was buying from Kebbi State. They were selling one full basket, 2,000 naira. And then it was selling for between 12 to 15,000 naira in Lagos.
Yes.
So it would take me 1,000 naira to transport one basket to Lagos. So put together, it was going to cost me 3,000 naira to get it, to buy and to get it to Lagos.
On paper. Yes, on paper.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to explain. That was what it was going to cost me, and then I would sell for between 12 to 15,000. So you see, the margins look good. Well, I had to get out of it because
Relative.
most times before they would get to Lagos, they would all be damaged.
That's the issue.
So I was, instead of me to make good margins, I was making significant losses, which discouraged me, and I had to stop it. Now, do you think maybe what we need more is, because I mean every year we talk of how much the government has budgeted for agriculture and all that, do you think maybe such money should be invested in infrastructure? Maybe if we had better infrastructure, the government wouldn't need to invest money in planting or providing fertilizers. You have private individuals like you and I who would use our money to actually do these things. Do you think that would be a better option?
No, infrastructure, yes. But then also, like I said, it doesn't make sense cutting tomato from Kebbi to when you can actually make it into paste and remove all the water, because basically if you are cooking tomato, it's the water that you're moving.
Yeah.
If you are
In baskets.
in basket, it's the water. If you can shrink, you can compress and you preserve it. It's the same thing. All the tomato paste companies in the world, that's what they do.
Yes.
So that's one. Then number two is that I can tell you I've been in government. Government to a large extent has not been paying lip service to agriculture. Let's face it. I have a borehole in my house which I dug like 15 years ago. But as we speak, it's still producing water. So the truth is that if you check when the Buhari government came in 2015, crude oil prices had crashed. Even the same thing happened in Amazon Jos in 1999, and I think it was $9 per barrel at that time. So the government was panicking and was trying to get other sources of income. But maybe we had the crisis in Middle East and stuff, and prices was then forgot about that. Happened with Buhari when Buhari came in 2015. The price of crude oil had crashed so much that they're talking about diversifying the economy.
Yeah.
What happened? Talking about solid minerals, this, that. But when the crude oil price there rising, we forgot about that. Let me tell you what happened. In 2015, a brand new Master Ferguson tractor cost 6 million. I bought for somebody. But now the same tractor costs 15 million. There's no subsidy is on paper. You see, if you're buying most farm equipment, most machines, the parts are the same generators. So it's the same tariff. It's the same taxes that they pay. So if I want to buy Perkins parts for my tractor, there's no dichotomy between me and somebody who's buying to fix his generator.
Okay.
So all the high cost of input, it's really a problem. So it's one factor that's making farmers not produce enough.
Okay, let's take these messages. This one is quite lengthy. Let me see. Well done, Mr. Chris. You're doing a great service to the nation. Regards to your guest. 1/3 of Nigerians live with no sufficient food to feed. Let me be frank with you. The statistics released listing Nigeria as one of the countries whose citizens live without enough food is arguable. The only way we can make significant progress in food production is for our government to think inwardly by making farming inputs more affordable for the farmers. Example, presently fertilizer is beyond the reach of our peasant farmers. It is also too difficult for farmers to access loans to boost their farming capacity. It has really gone so bad that you see most women walking their ways into people's houses begging for food to eat. We are in a very serious situation that needs government's urgent attention in order to guarantee food security for Nigerian citizens. John Samuel Dogoyaro from Masaka sent that in. And this one says, addressing the following, Nigeria will feed the world in a short possible time. Farmers and herdsmen clashes, provision of affordable farming materials and knowledge on modern mechanized farming, provide social amenities for those in rural communities to avoid migration of potential farmers to the urban areas to search for white-collar jobs. The Federal Ministry of Agric should own a land in all the states in the country for farming, and degrees, masters and PhD holders should be employed to work there as is being done in the NNPC. What are the professors and graduates of agriculture in their various areas of specialization doing to make this sector look like NNPC? Government should make agriculture business as petroleum industry has been, actually from Nasarawa. Of course, quite interesting, in some countries, agriculture is as lucrative, maybe not directly as lucrative, but it is quite very lucrative, you know, as petroleum products can be. But, well, it is what it is, and of course, that's all we can take as far as the messages are concerned this morning on the show. Before we go, there was this high-speed train that was launched in Morocco last week. It says it covers, I think, 380 kilometers per hour, thereabout, and it was done for $2 billion. It was gotten for $2 billion, everything, including the rail line and the trains themselves. And then I wonder, somebody said that such a train would do Lagos Abuja in 3 hours. So imagine if we had such, and in my tomato business, I wouldn't have stopped. Because in 3-4 hours, my product would have been in Lagos. So there won't be any need for it to get bad.
Even for those who, like, this is a means of mass communication. Like I tell people, those days used to have what they call agric extension workers. You have agric economists. You see, what the problem why we have this, even like I said, even the fertilizer business is a cartel. Fertilizer, you see, like I said, I was in government. When they import fertilizer, they look at it. So they look at the party faithful chieftains and give them.
Okay, we have to go now. We have to go. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Mr. Chuksa Kuna, Executive Director at the Authority newspaper, for coming, and MOC Eniola as well, the lawyer. Thank you very much both for coming on the show, and for those who called in and sent in text messages, thank you very much as well. My name is Chris Ogogo. Let's do this again, same time tomorrow. DJ is already looking at me with that eye. All right, God bless you all, and God bless Nigeria.